Okay, now to continue right where I left off, after you defeat Goat, all the snow in the mountains will all go away and it'll go back to be good old Death Mountain where everything is in a cool and warm temperature, and eventually those purple skies will fade away, just like the rest of the land after you complete every single dungeon, just like in the previous temple where the water turned into good water instead of poisoned water. But granted, after you do that, the next place you'll head to is right where you're going to head to the coast areas known as the Great Bay Coast. Now out here, if you go straight over to the ocean side, right where the beach is, you'll notice there is a body just laying in the water known as 𝑭𝒖𝒍𝒍 that apparently got attacked and was just left there dangling on the coast there. Now, of course, you're going to have to pull him over the coast because there's something you need to do with him. You can't just leave him over there, of course. Now, otherwise, technically, as soon as he points out that he needs help, you immediately just get right behind him and push him straight over to the shore. Now, it's pretty easy to do, just get right behind him, and you don't really need to grab him per se. If you just start swimming right behind him, he'll start getting pushed over to the shore. And when he gets to the shore, God, it looks like the life just got sucked right out of him. He looks like he's just about to drop dead, kind of like what he just did right there. But otherwise, when he hits the islands, he's going to tell you that there's one message he wants to tell you before he dies right where he's laying, because obviously he's not going to live any longer over the damage he just went through trying to get the Zora eggs, which is what he tells you in this little small song he's going to tell you, is that there were 7 eggs stolen, and the lead singer of their band apparently lost their voice, and to get it back there's a certain song you need to play to her to get it back. And the 7 eggs you need to play the lyrics, 4 of them went to the 𝑭𝒖𝒍𝒍 fortress with the pirates, and 3 of them are somewhere underwater. You get all 7 of them, you can get the musical notes that you need to play to the person that lost her voice, then you'll be able to head to the next temple, and when you finish the temple, you'll be able to get the cure to her voice, and of course get another giant and whatnot. But otherwise, the last thing you need to do now is, now that he's told you what he wants you to do, because the fact is he couldn't do it, he asks you to do it, so what you need to do now is free his soul. By healing it, you play the Song of Healing, of course, which is what you did for yourself to get rid of the Deku curse, and what you did for the dead Goron curse to get his mask. After you play this song, you get a small transformation sequence of him in the dark with the other Zora, but I'm not going to show all of that because I don't have time. But otherwise, after that happens, his soul is freed and he turns into the Zora mask for you to collect. Otherwise, after he's down, he's pretty much just been left to be buried. You use the Zora mask to go to the right part of the map to enter the pirate fortress. Now, as soon as you enter, make sure none of the ships see you. You have to go straight underwater. Make sure they don't get a glimpse of you, because as soon as they see you, they throw you straight back out of there. Make sure when you climb up, you'll be able to get to this platform without anyone seeing you. After you hit that platform, switch back to the Zora mask and you'll be able to go inside the fortress. Now, on your way in, you're going to run into a lot of platforms and areas you're going to have to jump off of, which involves puzzling and thinking a little bit about it. I mean, I got stuck a couple of times going through here, but it wasn't that difficult. Otherwise, when you make it up here, you'll see a telescope and you'll get a view of the inner parts of the fortress, or at least the outside inner parts, before you go inside the rooms. You'll see there's a ladder that leads up to the main room, where actually the first egg is located, which is right in that direction. After you get out of the telescope, you'll be able to walk around and get a good view. Now, the hard thing about this is that these 𝑭𝒖𝒍𝒍 women, they go down, they're only down for like a couple of seconds. At most, I've noticed like 8 or 9 seconds. So make your decisions quickly on where you're going to go before you shoot an arrow, because they're not going to be down for too long. So it's a lot worse here. Plus, you're going to need magic for the Lens of Truth if you want to get the stone mask, so that way you're invisible and they can't see you. I don't know how putting a rock on your face makes you invisible, but whatever. As soon as you get into the first room, scaring the women away with bees, you'll be able to go inside each one of these tanks, which has a Zora egg in it, so make sure your bottles are not filled. Make sure they're empty. And also, you're going to run to some of these 𝑭𝒖𝒍𝒍 women that actually can see you regardless whether you're wearing the stone mask or not. There's a total of, I think, 2 or 3 of them, so make sure you're ready for these fight scenes, because it's going to happen a couple of times. You don't get anything out of them, it's just a fight that just costs you time. But otherwise, you're probably going to head back and forth from Clock Town to the Great Bay Coast, if you need more magic or any other items. But otherwise, after you do that, After you get all the eggs, you're going to head straight back to the Marine Research Lab, and you're going to drop the eggs off here. But after you drop off the eggs, you realize you only have 4 of them. There is still 3 more you need to get. After you drop 4 of them in, obviously you need to head back out and get the rest of them. But you're probably wondering, where are you supposed to get the final 3 eggs? Well, if you were paying attention earlier, I said they're somewhere underwater. And I'm not saying just a random area underwater in the main room. I mean, that would make things easier if it was, but no, it's actually in a more complicated area. You actually need to go near a little trench area, and there's 3 of them that are down there. And one, to go down there, you need that golden seahorse, which you need to trade a picture of the Gerudo pirates of. So make sure you take a picture of one of those women there, so that way you can get the seahorse in one of your bottles. After you trade the picture for the seahorse, you need to take the seahorse to a specific location in the water. Don't just drop it in the middle area of the water, because it's going to mention I don't think you can do it, or it would probably just waste the moment and you'd have to try again. So still, as soon as you get the seahorse, head straight back outside, ignore these enemies, head for those 2 rocks up ahead. That's where you need to drop them down. There's a specific area you need to head towards to where the final 3 eggs are located, and also where a different seahorse is located with it. Now otherwise, as soon as you get down here, you need to go across. You release the seahorse here as you follow it across the signs. You can't just swim straight over here, which would make more sense. But still, after you do this part, it mentions that there is another seahorse down here you have to save, and doing that you have to catch all of those eels. But mainly, if you get the 3 eggs, you can just leave after that. If you get all the eels, you'll actually get an extra heart piece for getting all the eels and getting the 2 seahorses together. You don't have to do this, but I'd say it's worth the heart piece because it's not too much of a hassle to do. I mean, there's not even that many of those worms to begin with. But yeah, after you get all the Zora eggs from the area, just swim straight back up and you should be able to make it back over to where the research lab was, and you can return the final 3 eggs. Which won't be too much of a hassle. It's pretty easy to do once you know what you're doing. Now anyway, as soon as you're done with that, head straight back to the Marine Search Lab and just head straight in and drop the eggs off, and something will happen once you put the eggs into the tank, because there's a specific item or thing I mentioned earlier you're going to need if you want to head to the Great Bay Temple, which is known as a song you need to play outside of behind the area of where the Zoras are located. It's a specific music note you have to play. I forget the name of the song, but this song will help a turtle come out of the water, so that way you can head straight to the Great Bay Temple. It's something you're going to need, to get to the next temple, so this part is very important. Otherwise, after you talk to the old man, you need to pull out that Zora guitar and play this specific song. Now, of course, you have to follow the specific lyrics to play it, but after you play this song, you will have to play it again once you head back over to where the Zora place is. Right here. As soon as you play here, it doesn't matter what time of day it is or which day it is. I recommend being at the beginning of the day's cycle for this. A turtle will wake up in a couple of seconds here and tell you that you need to head straight to another temple if you want to get her voice back, and if you want to get one of those giants to stop the moon, of course. Now this direction is pretty easy. I mean, again, once you know what you're doing, this is kind of a piece of cake, but it kind of takes a while to get all these eggs, so it can be kind of a hassle. But otherwise, after you've done all that, you'll be taken straight to the Great Bay Temple. And here's where the real frustration really begins. The Great Bay Temple, I can understand why it's hated. I don't like this temple personally, but I don't hate it. I can understand why people I don't understand why people hated the Water Temple, because the Great Bay Temple is just a maze of switches and whatnot. But otherwise, one thing that is good about the temple is the one mini-boss you have to run into, which is one of the frogs. Kind of like what you saw in the Woodfall Temple, except this one's a little easier in my opinion in some ways. This one, you mainly just need to use the flame arrows to hit the frog, and you need to use the ice arrows to hit the gooey parts. If you hide behind those crates there, you should be fine from any of those hits. Most likely, at least. I never actually tried it myself, but seeing someone else do it gives me an idea that maybe that will prevent you from getting squished on top of, and it'll actually cost you a lot of hearts if you get hit by that thing. So make sure you don't get hit by that thing. But otherwise, this one thing I wanted to point out as well is that if you actually manage to get 5 or 6 frogs in all the map, you will unlock a heart piece. That is one of them, if you're wondering. But otherwise, after you've done most of that, you will head straight to the main boss after getting the boss key. And you will fight the next boss, which is Georg. a giant fish. Now this fight's a lot better in the 3DS than the original one, because in the original one, all you really do is shoot arrows at it and just hit it when it's underwater. In this fight, you mainly just need to hit arrows at it while it spins around the island you're sitting on. Eventually, it'll go to an underwater stage where you have to switch to the Zora, but otherwise, this main part is pretty simple once you get a good aim on him. He's not moving too fast most of the time, but those jumps could surprise you if you're not ready for it, or if you don't know what the guy's pattern is. But yeah, eventually after you hit his eye enough times, he will eventually sink underwater and eventually sink the little island you're sitting on. And if you're wondering about being low on pots, or at least arrows, there are pots around that can fill it up. But eventually, yeah, he will sink the island, and now this leads to the final stage of the fight, which is the underwater stage. This stage, you're frequently running around, fighting some of the fish it shoots out of its mouth, but the main idea is you need to hit those little spike balls that blow up in his mouth, and do that enough times, and his eye will come out, and eventually it'll kill 𝑭𝒖𝒍𝒍. And when you do that, you will see his remains and an extra heart piece in the end as your reward. Of course, after you collect the 2 items, that is the end of the Great Bay Temple, and you could finally say, I never have to revisit this place again. Well, that's unless if you're replaying the game. But yeah, otherwise. Granted, the fact is this, there isn't really that much to see after you kill it, just a bunch of random pots with items that you could use, but the fact is, you're done with the temple, you're most likely near the end of the cycle, if you took your time on this temple, but otherwise, as soon as you're done with that part, you'll be greeted into the little spirit world area where you find out another one of the giants has been saved, implying that he is now ready to help you once you approach Majora's Mask again. Now, he just tells you a little message about don't get mad at us, forgive us for any mistakes, forgive your friends, and just help our friends, of course. And I'm guessing when he says help our friend, he means the last one that is still in the Stone Tower Temple. Now, getting here is a huge handful of things you need to do. You need to give the Give-Do Mask by winning a race with the brothers. Then you need to get the Captain's Hat, which involves this little side quest involving going after this skeleton. Eventually, you'll be given that mask, and also you need this little mummy mask where you need to get involving getting the Song of Storms that involves the Captain Mask. After you do the Song of Storms, then you'll be able to get inside the house, save the mummy dad, and then eventually the mask will drop and you have that item. Also, you need to get this little shopping list done for items if you want to get past those mummy in the doors. Eventually, after you do that, you will be led straight to this little mini dungeon where you will be given the Elegy of Emptiness song that will allow you to do little statues. After you do all of that, then you head straight to the Stone Tower Temple with these little bosses right here. Eventually, after you do all these items, the Elegy of Emptiness you will use a lot in this dungeon. There are 3 bosses technically in this dungeon. There's 2 mini bosses. The first one is the Garura right here, which is the first half of the dungeon. Then there is a second half, but he actually mentions that if you go back to the entrance and you shoot a light arrow, the entire dungeon will flip upside down, implying the second half is now completely upside down and there's a new area to explore, which leads to this mini boss that has a lot of bats and a scythe. This one I'd say is a little bit harder than the first one because this guy's attacks are a little more far out range than the one that was just jumping around. You mainly just need to hit him with light arrows. You don't have to hit him with your sword from what I've noticed. It kills him faster if you do use your sword, but I would just recommend just shooting a bunch of light arrows if you have unlimited magic, which I would recommend highly if you're doing this mission, because again, you need the magic to even be wearing the Giant's Mask. So yeah, make sure you have unlimited magic when you do this mission. That's like almost essential in my opinion. I would say the same thing about the Zora swimming, that way you don't run out of magic when swimming. But otherwise, he is the key to getting to the boss key because he was guarding it. But after you do that, you get the boss key and you jump straight in this little portal to the desert where you will fight Twin Mold. Now again, I think this fight was better in the 3DS version mainly because they made it more challenging. The original one was way too easy because you had the Giant's Mask actually before you even came in here, and all you had to do was just swing your sword till it dies. But here, you need to shoot the eyes underneath the blue Twin Mold, and eventually it'll spin with the giant eye. Eventually that will kill it, and then it will reward you with the Giant's Mask where you can finish off the second one, which involves usually swinging around with the tail, or you can just scrunch it on the neck kind of like a wrestler would. But granted, after you do that enough times, it will eventually die as well. As soon as you get the Giant's Mask, the red one will start releasing these creatures that look like mini versions of its face, and you can't fight them as a small child or you're just going to get outrun. So you need to put on the Giant's Mask immediately after you get it because it's going to release monsters that you cannot fight when you're at normal size. So just put it on as soon as you can, be very quick, immediately equip it on one of your items, and just put that thing on before you are chewed to death, or in other words, just pinched to death by those little things. But otherwise, you just pinch it with your giant hands until you see the other twin mold. The idea is you just need to hit it on its side and try to avoid those fireballs, because if you get knocked down, you won't get a chance to get near it. That can get annoying after a while, but still, it's a part of progression, and it can be kind of challenging at times. Otherwise, after a while of hitting it, you will eventually get the chance to grabbing its face, or you can just grab it by the tail and just start swinging around like crazy. You do this enough times, and twin mold goes down. This fight technically would go on for most likely 5 or 6 minutes if you knew what you're doing right at the start. If you didn't know what you're doing, this fight may go on for like 20 minutes. No joke, some people don't even know how to fight this thing. But otherwise, yeah, you'll get the heart container, and you will get the final thing you need to take on Majora's Mask, which is the remains of twin mold. Now that you've done that, you have now freed the final giant, which is what you need if you want to get to Majora's Mask. Because you need all 4 of these giants if you want to stop the moon. Because again, if you just had 1 or 2 or 3 giants, it wouldn't be enough. You need all 4 of them to stop the moon completely. Now that you have all of the giants, you are now ready to take on Majora's Mask. As he tells you to head straight to the clock tower, that they are ready and you are ready to take them on. All you have to play is the Oath of Order. Once you get to the top of the clock tower at the final day of the final 6 hours, you will be able to stop him at the moment and right there and then. It'll be easy as that. Again, I will get into more detail once it gets to that part, but otherwise, after you've done that, of course, the curse of this area has now been lifted in the canyons, where now the skies are going to turn into blue skies. Everything's blooming, life and nature is returning, all of the evilness and the curse has been now removed, and now the area is just a much better place to live in. Now, it just looks very nice. But yeah, otherwise, after you've done all of that, you are now ready to take on the Skull Kid. Wait till the final 6 hours of the 3rd day, and of course, the tower will open for you to go straight upstairs to the top, where you can finally approach the Skull Kid like you did in the beginning of the game, except this time, you will be taking him down. As of course, the fairy will be saying the same lines, so will the Skull Kid, but otherwise, it won't be the same this time, because you're not trying to get your ocarina back. This time, you're going to stop him. Instead of playing the Song of Time to try again, you're going to be playing it for this moment to actually instead stop the moon. Now, as soon as he does that thing to speed up the moon process, your way of stopping it is playing the Oath of the Order, and you can see how things play out as soon as it goes by, as the giants come by and they stop the moon. And voila, the moon has officially stopped. Now they obviously celebrate over this, thinking that it's all over, the Skull Kid's down, the moon is in place. But the thing is this, the moon isn't gone yet. It's still just sitting there. They stopped it from moving, but the Skull Kid is just laying there, implying that there's something they still need to get done, even though they feel like it's over. It's about to happen the next moment, and this absolutely caught me off guard when I first saw this. It was just kind of weird that you would think that the Skull Kid was in charge, but you find out right here it wasn't the Skull Kid, it was just the mask, implying that the Skull Kid was just a puppet in this situation. The mask was controlling him. The Skull Kid was just a mere puppet. Now the mask is going to go straight up into the moon and give it even more power, because the mask is what's powering the moon, implying you stop the mask, you stop the moon. Now the moon is getting even stronger and pushing even harder now. but the giants are still holding in place. It's just getting more challenging for them, implying if you want to stop the moon, you gotta go inside where the mask went and stop the mask. You stop the source, you stop the damage, and you have saved Termina, implying you have now saved the world twice now, Link. But otherwise, the fairies don't feel like they should come with you because of all the dark magic, kind of like with Link and Ganondorf. But it seems that this time, maybe they're actually willing to go after it this time. Link decides to jump into the moon, Tail follows, and you find this weird kid with the mask, and then you lead to the actual boss fight. There's 3 stages. There's just the flying Majora's Mask with the other masks that you've already fought, and the final, or the second step, is going to be Majora's Incarnation, where it looks really skinny and starts running around doing these weird dance moves. It doesn't particularly attack, it's just running around rampant. You hit it enough times with the light arrows to where it'll lead to the 3rd stage, which is known as Majora's Incarnation, where this fight is where the fight legit gets real. With this fight, he's frequently throwing these little whip arms or tentacles. I'm not sure whether I should say it's a whip or a freaking tentacle. I'm just going to say whip because of the sound effects it makes. So yeah, make sure you're always blocking on this fight, because if you're not blocking, he'll grab you and throw you around like crazy, and it takes a lot of damage. And also, fun fact, if you're out of arrows, one other way you can hurt it is if you use the bomb mask. It may hurt you, but it'll hurt him as well. But again, enough times will defeat Majora's Incarnation if you have enough of the bomb mask, of course, and of course it'll also help you with Majora's Wrath. Both of those rounds will definitely help you severely, so unlike me when I wasted all my arrows in the first round. Otherwise, yeah, after you do this, Majora's Incarnation, Majora's Wrath is down, and the Majora's Mask itself is down, the curse is gone, and the moon will fade away like it was never there. The moon has been stopped, and the curse of Majora's Mask is officially gone. Nothing but a clear rainbow and clear skies here. There is no worry about anything crashing down starting at this moment. Dawn of a new day. The adventure is officially over. Link has fulfilled his next adventure. Link has stopped the moon from crashing down. The curse of Majora's Mask has been defeated. Gone, implying Majora's Mask is just an ordinary mask. As the giants see the victor just sitting right there, right next to the Skull Kid. I don't know how Link and the Skull Kid got over there if they were on top of the tower a moment ago. Well, who really knows, but otherwise, the Skull Kid does feel kind of guilty over what happened, which is why he kind of shakes there. But after what happened, the giants decide to go back to where they originally came from, knowing that they did their part to stop the moon. Otherwise, after that happens, Link actually does offer to become the Skull Kid's friend after what happened. You know, he had to attack him, play the Oath of Order, hit his hand. But otherwise, you find out that this Skull Kid isn't very new to Link, because you find out that he actually did meet the Skull Kid back in Hyrule, back in Ocarina of Time. If you remember, you played Saria's song to this Skull Kid with the flute. It's the same Skull Kid, because it mentions it right there. You were the kid that taught me the song in the woods. It's the same kid from right in the moment in the forest to right here. But otherwise, after that's been pointed out, you find out that the Happy Mask Salesman has officially gotten Majora's Mask back, and he is fulfilled his time here in Termina, and is probably going to go back to Hyrule, where his Happy Mask's shop was. I mean, it makes sense. I wouldn't want to stay in Termina either after we saw what happened. I would have done the same thing as Link and the Mask Salesman would have done, just leave Termina and go back to Hyrule, which is what has been told to happen to Link after the events of Majora's Mask, that he does return to Hyrule after this. So after Link has this journey in Termina, he decides to leave as well, because the fairies decide not to go with him, because the original reason Link left Hyrule is because he was trying to find out where Navi went, because Navi flew off at the ending of Ocarina of Time. He's still searching for her, but again, after the adventure he just went through, Tail decided to stay with its brother, and Link decides to go off and find Navi once again, like how his adventure originally started before he ran into the Skull Kid. But after things are said and done, that is the ending of Majora's Mask. Of course, like the Ocarina of Time video, I will do a third video talking about its little side quests, mini games, and of course other things. And after that, I will do some versus videos on Ocarina versus Majora, and also reasons why each one is better over the other. But otherwise, this week's going to be an uploading spree. I'm not going to wait till Saturday to make these next videos. They will be coming up within each day at a time. There's 3 new videos coming about this 2 topics, so stay tuned, and see you guys in the next video.